Yes, whether you're saying something.
Yeah, I mean, it was not audible before. Yeah, it's getting better.
Okay. So before we start, do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, Ravi, I have some questions regarding that.
Mhm. Yeah, go ahead.
So I was just confused with the code for reference table. We have like is active one. What does that mean?
So is active one is just a
Hello
column.
everyone, good morning.
Okay. Okay. So is active is just a column, right? We have added one column
Are you able to hear
as a
me?
boolean.
Eh,
Yeah, Venkat, we can hear you. He's left. Okay, is active just a column filter, right? I mean, see, ideally what happens in development life cycle, right? In any of the application, we should not be deleting the data permanently, right? If we delete the data permanently, the data will be lost. Okay. So instead of delete permanently, what we do, we do a soft delete, right? So suppose if you want to delete a particular row, what we will do that we will make that is active column as false for that particular row, right? So it means that we are just soft deleting it instead of hard deleting. Got it? Hello?
Yeah, yeah, Ravi. So it's like, is it Boolean or what is it like? Uh,
It's a boolean. It's a boolean. So it's a,
okay.
if you remember in the database while creating the table, we have used as a tiny int, right?
Yeah,
So
I had that question again. What is tiny int again?
it's a uh, in DB convention, it's a small integer. The
Okay.
range is 0 to 1. I mean, just put 0 or 1. The value should be 0 or 1.
Are you able to
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, Venkat, we can hear you. Okay. So the
Yeah.
possible values is 0 is 1. Yeah.
Oh, so the possible values are 0 to 1, right?
Hmm. So
Okay.
0 means false, 1 means true. If it is false, it means the data is soft deleted. If it is true, it means data is still active.
Okay, okay, got it. And also, like, we have given that insert into reference table, right? This
Mhm.
category as status and like all these things. How
Mhm.
are we relating it to the other table? I was
We are
confused
going to
between the.
write, we are going to use those values in our for our purpose.
Okay.
Right, as we discussed, right, instead of directly saving the entire text values, we are going to capture the integer values
Text
from the
values.
reference table.
Okay. Fine.
Mhm.
I'll just follow the class today and see if I have any questions. I'll let you know.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. So, Venkat, can you hear us now? Is your audio problem solved?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, okay.
Thank you.
All right. So let's do that. Let me share my screen. Okay. So yesterday, what we have done is that we created one application. Um, with that, yeah. A lot has been created. So we have created this application and then we created two tables and then we created an associated CDD for that one, right? Um, let me open the table. So these are the two tables that we created, the company registration form, which had all these values, we created, and then we have also had created one reference table. This has some, predefined data, which we will be required to display on the screen or set some status with a particular IDs. Okay. Now, how do we bring this data? See, this data is in different shoot. This is a database shoot, right? And then this Appian designer is in different shoot, right? It's like available to uh, development environment, and this is the database environment. Now we want to bring the data from database to Appian designer label so that we can make it useful and then we can work it out. So how do we do that, right? So for that, we will require to write some code to bring the data from the database. Okay. Now, first of all, we want to bring the, because this one, this table, this company registration table is right now, it does not have any data. So we don't need to pull any data from here. We need to write the data here. So we'll come to this part later, but from the reference table, we will require to pull the data. Okay. So how do we pull the data from this table to the Appian level, the code level? We will see that. Okay. First of all, we created this reference table CDT yesterday, right? And then it has certain fields. Is active, we can change because it's a tiny int. So Appian by default considered as an integer. What we need to do is that we need to change it to the Boolean. Okay, because in database definition we have given as a tiny int. Now if I click on save changes, it will try to verify if it works or not. So let's do the verification. Changes are saved. It means that it's working fine. If I go to the data store that we created, in the data store we define the entities. Okay, just verify the entity because we have made some changes in the reference table. So entity is verifying fine. So it means the relation has been established perfectly. We have created two mappings, one for the company registration form and then one for the reference table. So there are two entities we have created and both are connected successfully. So that's why entity mapping is verified. In case there are certain issues, it will say that this particular entity is not mapped properly. Please, these are the differences between them, between the CDT and then table. Please correct that. But as of now, it's working fine. So let's proceed. So this is the entity that we will require to pull the information from the database. Okay. I will tell you there are two ways of the coding. One is the traditional way where we need to put everything. We need to write the code, and one is the configuration way. So I would like to show you both of them. Okay. So first I'll say show you guys the coding one so you can understand how the code works for it. And second way, I think show you the configuration one. We can create the same thing in frequency of seconds. Okay. All right. Now let's do that. First of all, we will require this entity to bring the data from the database. Now let's go and create an expression rule because expression rules are the rule which is used to do some calculation, to pull the data, to manipulate your data. So we will create an expression rule and that let's say we put the name as get reference data. Okay. So this rule is used to pull the reference data from database. Okay, I'll just say, and all this rule and interface or a constant that we will create, we are going to capture into the ESS rules and constants. So this folder was created by the Appian itself. If you remember, if you have checked in the check that checkbox, it will get created. I'll say create. Okay. Now to bring the data from the database, we have a function called abang query entity. So this is a function which is required to bring the data from the database, and it has certain parameters. If you don't remember the parameters name, that is fine, because in the description below you can see it has given what are the parameters it requires and what is the definition of it and what's the type of it. Okay. So first of all, I need to tell this function that from which entity I need to pull the data. So this is the parameter name. I need to tell the name of the entity from which it has to bring the data. Now you guys tell me if I need to bring the data from this entity, right? If I give the name here, will it work? What is the type of this one that I have written here? Come on guys, be interactive.
It's a data store. It's a data.
But here I have just written the text, right? So it is a kind of a text right now. What it will require? It will require data store entity. So will it work? It will say no, I need an data store entity, but what you are passing to me is a plain text, right? So it won't work. It says that, kindly give me the data store entity so that I can refer to that. So if you are going to type it, it will be treated as a simple text. Then how do we provide this entity here? If you remember, in the introduction class, I have mentioned about the constants, right? That there will be certain objects and certain functions where we need to provide certain type of the data, so that we need to create a constant for that. So let's go and create a constant. The one best practice is about constant is that Appian suggests that constant name you should always put in capitals so that we can understand that this is a constant, and separated by the underscore. So this is a prefix, and we will put a name like data store entity DSE underscore. Which table it is? That it is a reference table, REF reference. Okay, so this constant is holding data store entity for ASS underscore reference table. Okay, so what is the type it is going to be? It is going to be data store entity. Once we select the type of the data store entity, it will say which data store. So I have created a data store for our purpose. So that's ASSDSS. I selected that data store. In this data store, how many entities are there? Right now, we have created 2 entities. Which one are we going to select? Reference table 1. Right. So what we have done, we have just referring this particular entity that we need to use in a constant, so that we can use this constant. Okay. So I'll just copy this. I'll say create. So now what we have done, we have created a data store entity constant. It's a constant of type data store entity. Now what we need to do is here, we need to refer that constant here. So how do we refer that constant? Again, if we write that name, the name of the constant, it will be plain text. To refer a constant, we have a prefix called cons bang, the name of the constant. So if we are using cons, that means that we are trying to call any constant here. Now this constant is having a type of data store entity, and this is an entity which is required a data store entity, so it will now valid. The second parameter is that query, right? If you want to have any query, so we need to provide the query parameter, and the query parameter require a function called abang query. Okay, and one mandatory parameter for this query is that called paging info. Paging info is a parameter which decide how many data we want to pull from the database. Okay, so for paging info, we have a function called abang paging info. You don't have to remember all those things, you can see it here. Okay, inside this query function, if you click in the bracket, you will see that all those things are listed here. Okay, so we are going to use abang paging info. It will have certain parameters again. I'll say start index. So I want to start the index from 1. From first index, I'll say batch size. Okay, so let's say I'll say batch size is equal to -1. Okay, and then sort. I want to sort. If I want to sort anything, so I'll say abang sort info. And then field. Which field I want to sort? I want to sort based on the AID. I believe that is reference table. That should be the same of the city parameter name. Yeah, AID. I want to sort it based on this. So I'll just say AID and then ascending to. It means it should be in ascending order. So this is the certain code that we need to write to bring the information, minimum code that we need to write to bring the information from the database, and which table we have just provided the entity. If I click on the test tool, you will see that I am getting all those listed data that we have in our database into the reference table. Okay. Any questions still here? Then we'll move forward.
Ravi, actually your prefix a bang. What is mean a bang? Actually, you
See,
used a
certain
constant
functions,
bang.
yeah, certain functions in Appian will require a bang. If you don't remember which prefix it will use, doesn't matter. You just type the name of the function, it will automatically take that. Let's say if I want to query entity, it will automatically take it the a bank. So there are certain functions in Appian which will require a bank, and the constants are required CONS, constant bank. Okay, CONS.
Okay. A bank means it's a means a function, right?
It's a
You're
people
saying.
functions that we are going to use. Even yeah,
Okay.
that's what I mean. You have to provide that one. Even if you don't provide it, it will automatically take it. You don't have to remember that.
Okay.
Ravi, after entity, we have another query. So, what is it doing? Like, I'm not understanding anything. Like, it's confusing for me to.
No, what you are not understanding. That's see the
So,
first of all you need to understand
yeah,
what is the fundamental of writing this code. What is the use of writing this code?
yeah,
Okay, so we are
okay,
writing this code to bring the data from database.
yeah,
Okay, and to
yeah,
bring the data from the database, we will require a function called query entity.
okay,
Okay, and then query entity requires certain parameters. So what are the
mm,
parameters for a query entity? For a query entity, we have entity, query, and page total count. So these are
okay,
the elements which is used to support your function to bring the data. If I use some certain functions, right, the function also need to know which table it has to query. The function also need to know what data you want to bring, right? So
okay,
to support your function, right, so you have to write this certain codes. Okay, so we are saying the entity decides which table it has to query.
mm,
Okay, so we have given the name of that our data stored entity. If you remember, we have created this data
yeah,
stored entity, right?
yeah,
So
constant,
data
yeah,
store, yes. So this data store entity, we cannot just simply go and type the name. If we go and
right,
type the name, it will not consider as a data store entity. Why? Because entity require the type as a data store entity. Okay.
okay,
If we simply type the name, it won't consider as a data store entity. So what we have to do? We have to
make it as a
create a
constant,
constant so
yeah,
that we can define in that constant that this constant is going to be type of data store entity.
okay,
Okay, we have to
yeah,
select which data store and then which entity.
okay,
Okay, so this constant is now is referring to which entity, the one that we require, the reference table entity, right?
yeah,
Okay, so this is done. Now this function understand which table it has to query.
mm-hmm,
Another important parameter, mandatory parameter, is that query. What query you want to run? If you go to the database, right, you write some query, select star from this table, select star from this table where condition is equal to this and that, right? So
mm,
all those query we have to write in Appian in a such a way that we can understand which data I want to bring. Okay. So if you see here, right, inside the query function, we have an important parameter, mandatory parameter called paging info. If we are saying that start index 1, it means that from the first data element, batch size is -1. The entire, if I put g -1, it will bring all the information. I mean, whatever number of rows are there into the database, it will bring it up. It will just like the select star from. So when we say select star, we bring all this information, right, without any condition, right? All the tables and without any, I mean, no filter. And just we are saying sorting, in which order it has to be sorted. So it has to be sorted into the AID is a ascending order. So we are going to get this result. So the output of a query entity is always be a data subset. In the data
okay,
subset, we are having
mm,
start index, we are having the batch size, and we have sorting info. So this is the information that we have provided. It also gives a total count. It means how many number of data you have in your database. So we had 8 number of records. You see 8 records. It says total count is
okay,
8, and then we have 8 different set of data, which each set represent one row of your database table. Okay,
mm,
you
yeah,
see one status in progress 1. You'll see the same here. One status in progress and one is a true, right? So it's true. So this is how we bring the information from the table to the Appian label. Is that clear now?
okay, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other questions? How we are connecting this and then bringing the data?
Ravi, so field AID is ascending order. It is by default like that, AID.
We have given this, right? So inside the database, you see we have
Oh,
AID
that
category display
AID.
view is
Okay,
active.
that one. Okay, okay, okay.
The CDT
Yeah.
name, CDT
Okay,
parameter name.
okay.
You remember, right? So if you we have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
see this one,
The
right? We have
primary one,
connected this.
right? Yeah.
We have, whenever we created this entity, we have given a particular type of CDT,
Yeah.
right? So that's why the data that we are receiving is in the CDT format.
Okay.
Right? This is our CDT fields.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions? No questions? Okay. Now this has many other information because the type is a data subset. It has start, index, base, size, sorting, total count, and all those information it has it. Imagine I just need a pure data. What we have to do? We can, and at the last we can just say dot data. If I say dot data, it means that data subset, and then we have data and then identifiers. These are the things, right? We saying dot data. So it will remove all other things. It will just give you simple data, 8 items, only the data. Okay, is that clear, guys? Any questions here? How we are going to connect to the database and bring the information database to Appian developer environment? These are important, so please do ask if
Ravi,
you have any
Ravi,
questions.
we are using a cloud database, right? If you are the Oracle database, means DB is maintained in another host. Is it the same thing or it's
No, it's the
a
same
different thing?
thing. No, it's the
Okay.
same thing, right? So you just have to, if you remember, while creating the data store, we have to select which data source we have to connect, right?
Yes.
So you
Yes.
just select your Oracle database source, and then once you connect the
Okay.
data source is connected, you can select the entity from that data source. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ravi.
Using that similar way, can we copy the data of specific fields into the other tables?
No, you right now we are not copying. It just query entity is just required to. It's what it will do. It will bring the data from the database.
Yes, we are fetching the data right here.
We are fetching the data
Yeah. So can we fetch and put into the different table?
by using
Mm.
this function. No, but in
Mm.
Appian, yes, we can do that.
Oh, okay. Just I have I was thinking that to copy the data from like this into the
No,
some table and merging that
not a
multiple
direct,
tables.
not a direct way, but you need to use the right to data store entity smart service to write the data to the table.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right. So, is there any no thoughts comes into your minds? Why, suppose I don't want the entire data. If I want some required data, how we will do that? Like the where condition in your database statement, you know? Okay. All right. If there is no question, then let's move forward. To filter the data, right now we have data for, we have for category the status, and then we also have data for where the category is company category, right? What's that? Okay, some wrong spelling. Okay, let me quickly change that. I'll just say company type. Okay, so I just change that value here as a company type. If I click on change tool now, it will be get change. It's a company type. Okay, now see, right now it's bringing all this information. What if I want to bring the information based on the type? Now, for example, let's say we have an employee table. Okay, if we use this kind of code, we will get entire employee. What if I want the employee based on the first name or last name, or by email address, or by DOB, right? So there could be certain scenario where we need to use certain filters to bring the data, right? So how do we write the code based on the filters? Like, no, please give me the record from this reference table where this category is equal to status. Okay, please bring me the information from the table where the first name is equal to this, last name is equal to this, and all. Right? Got it? So in that way, we need to also use the filters. So how do we use the filters? So inside the query, we have another parameter called logical expression. And logical expression will require a function called Appian query logical expression. Okay, so why we are going to use logical expressions? If you want to implement some query filters. Okay, so inside this logical expression, if you see, we have certain number of parameters that we need to provide. Let's say we want to provide operator. Operator, I'll say which kind of, if you are going to use multiple filters, which kind of operations you want, between those. So let's say I want to have AND operator between those. And then we have filters, list of filters. So list of filters, if you want to provide, I'll say ebang query filter. Okay, this is one of the function that is required to get the data from the filter, ebang query filter, and it will require which field you want to filter. I want to do the filter based on the category. So I'll just provide the category, and then operator, I'll say equal to, and the value I'll say, let's say I'll say status. Okay, if I say value as status, what will happen? Anyone, any guesses? If I click on test rule, it will reduce to 4 items. Why it will reduce to 4 items? Because we are saying that please bring me the information. It means select star from your reference table where category is equal to status. So that's why we are getting only 4 results. Okay, the other 4 was having category is equal to company type, so we are not getting that. Okay, is that clear? Now if I want to add another query filter, let's say I'll say abang query filter, and field, I will say field is equal to display value. So I'll just copy this name because this should be same, and then operator, I'll say equal to, and value, let's say I'll say pending with manager. So can anyone tell me how many result I'll get?
One.
Just the one. Why? Because this filter is used with the AND operator, right? And because we are using AND, it means that both, where the both will match, only those results will get. It will fetch from here. Now if I change to the OR, can anyone tell you how many result it will bring?
Four.
It will bring all 4 results. Why? Because it's an OR condition, and OR means either this is matching or this is matching. So if this is matching at 4 places, it is matching in 1 place, and both are having like same, so it will return 4 results. Okay, this is a subset of this one. Got it? Now let's say I want to add another query filter based on the AID. How do I do that? Can you tell me what should I write? Based on the code also, if I want to fetch the data, the ID. So what should I write? Come on guys, I want to add one more query filter based on the ID.
Just maybe add the query filter and field as AID.
Yeah. So we have to add the filter and field is AID, and then here value we can pass like 1, 2, or 3. Right?
Only
So,
one will come.
So how many result it will bring?
Just one. No, one. No. Is it and? Okay.
Yes, and
How will it zero, I guess.
yes, it won't bring any result. Why? Because
Yeah.
it's a oh sorry, it's not text. It's a zero items. Okay. Why zero item? Because this is giving some result, but along with this is also giving some result, but here it is not. If I change it to 2, then I'll get the result because now it's matching. All three conditions are met. So and this returns this particular value, so we are getting it. Okay. Now, is this a good code? If I ask you if this is a good code, why? Because we are hard coding it. Like suppose someone else want to create a want to fetch the data not based on the status but based on the company type. Will this code will work for them? No,
No,
right? Because we are hard
no.
coding it this as a status and then these all values. So this code is not going to work for them, right? This is say, okay, we have to again write a code. So how do we optimize our code in a such a way that it can be reused by anyone else as well, right? So we should not be hard coding the value. We should be passing the value to it. So based on my requirement, please give me the values. Okay. So how do we do that? So in Appian, we have a variable called rule input. Okay. So rule input is a type of a variable. It's not physically available. We have to map it to the some physical availability, but to pass the information from one place to other one place to other place or one rule to other rule, we will require this. So how do we create a rule input? Okay, so fundamental thing is that rule input is required to pass the information from one place to other place. You can click the arrow icon here and it will say that rule input. You can create a rule input. I just say rule input. I will provide a name. I'll say category. I'll say category and type is going to be text. Okay. Now you see this one, this category has been created. I'm just going to comment this code for now for time being. Okay. I'm saying category. Now if I pass category as status, then it should bring the information based on the status. If I pass company type, then it should be bring that the company type. Now instead of hard coding this value, what I can do, I can say rule input, RI rule input bang category. So if I pass status now, it will bring the information for status, right? If I say company type, I'll get the information of the company type, right? So now this rule become very dynamic. So whatever value you will pass to it, based on that, it will work. You don't have to hard code it. Now what we do not use anything, by mistake, suppose I have forgotten to provide any value and click on the text rule, it is going to be break the same. Why it is that you are using an equal operator, and if you are using an equal operator, we need to provide some value. And if you are not providing any values, then what we need to do, we need to provide a null check. So what we can do, there's a parameter inside the query filter called apply when. When we should be applying this one? When my category array this category is not null or empty. So there's a function called is not null or empty. What is not null or empty? Ri being category. If my category is not null or empty, then only apply this filter. So what it will do now? It will bring all this information because we have not provided any value for the category. Now if I go and change as a status, we'll get it. Okay. Now this is any questions before here, guys? Before moving forward, there's a lot in query entity. So take 2 days, 3 days. That's fine with me. But before moving, clear it out. Any questions here? Why we are using this category now? Value RI category. What is the apply when? Come on, speak up. Okay. If it is clear, then let's move forward. So imagine I remember the name. It was something called company, but I don't remember what is the next text was that. Right? I know it was company type or company category. Something was that I don't remember, but there was a company. There could be a case. Okay. Then how do I bring this information? If I click on test tool now, it won't bring any information. Why? Because there is nothing in category called company. As because we are using a equal operator, so it will require the exact match. Right. Now, if I want to bring the information based on this company, I'm sure that it has a word called company, but not the all entire text. So what we need to do, we need to change the operator. We will say that includes, and you don't have to worry about it. It has all those operator listed here. You can check it in the description. So if I say includes, it will simply work like the like operator in your database. If I say company, now you see that it will try to find, okay, where the word category, does it has anything anywhere called company? Yeah, we had it, so it will bring all this information. So partial search is also possible. Like this will be required, helpful when you're going to search for an employee. If you say, I don't remember the full name, I just remember the first name and all that, so you can bring that function based on the include operator. Okay, clear? Cool. In the same way, we also want to provide a query filter as a dynamic for the display value and operator. So how can we do that? We can create a rule input. We can say display value. It is also going to be text, and we can change here, instead of direct hardcode value, we can say RI bank display value, and we can also check the apply when condition. So it should not be breaking. So I'll say is not null or empty. What is not null or empty? RI bank display value is not null or empty. Same way, we can also create a query parameter for AID. It is going to be type of number integer, and then here we can say is RI bank AID, and also check the is not null or empty condition. RI bank AID. Okay, so now what happens? This rule this query rule is very dynamic in the nature, which can bring the information based on your search criteria. If you don't provide anything, it will bring the entire information. If you provide any filter, like let's say I want to AID based on AID is 6, so it will bring the information where the AID is 6. If I say display value is, let's say, in progress, I'll get the data from in progress. Okay, so you can make use of combinations as well. I'll say status in progress. If I click on test tool now, I'll get the value. Like if I say 9 here, I won't getting any value because these all three are not matching any of the places. Okay, is that clear now? How this query entity rule works? Okay, so a lot of code. You guys are thinking there are a lot of code, right? It took some time to develop this number of codes here, right? Let's do one thing. Copy this constant name and then delete entire thing. Okay. Click on this launch the query editor. Select the data store entity. Provide the name of the constant. Okay. Click on continue. I'll require all rows. Sort by AID in ascending order. Let's say filters. Add the filters. Add the filter based on a category. Let's say use includes operator. Select the variable, input variable, and RI category. Add filter. We add it in the display value. I'll say equal to, or let's say this also I want to as an includes input variable. Select the input variable display value. Add one more filter that was based on the AID, that should be equal to, and then input variable, I'll say AID. Okay, Now click on generate query. Your code is ready. Okay, it's just a null check. Let me check if we can also do the null check from here. No, we already have this ignore filter with the null values. Yeah. So if you see here, ignore filters with empty values we have given 2, then we do not have to provide this apply when. It's not required because this is the parameter we have given. But it will work in the same way. I'll just do the dot data at the end and then try it. I'll say status. We're getting this one. Which one you guys like?
One is easy one.
Ravi, is the query editor more practiced, like, or do we code every time?
See, first of all, you need to understand what it is doing. If I have shown you this query editor initially, there would have been a
Okay.
lot of questions like what is the query filter, what is the logical expression, why it is like this, why inside this one, right? What is the use of this quantity constant? So that's the reason I explained you the code first, how it works, and then the easy way of creating it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
once you are done and you understand the code how it works, you can use the query editor. I mean, nobody is going to restrict you why you are using the query editor. Why didn't you write
Okay.
the code? No one is going to tell you that. So that is fine. Okay, but
Yeah.
you should understand the code. Now
Okay.
you understand, right? This query filter is used for the filters. This
Yeah.
yeah. That's the way. What is the use of paging info and all?
Okay.
Okay. So now we can use this rule wherever we will require, and if we pass the information to it, it will bring the data from the database. Okay. All right. Then try yourself, guys. Try to create a query entity rule and bring the information from the table. Add some filters. See what are the operators we have. Based on requirement, and then once you learn that, then you use the query editor. Okay.